Hello and welcome to Too Old for This Shit, podcast where we've just burped and laughed like Beavis and Butthead. But on this week's show we're going to be discussing which is the best Punisher movie, and Laura's just after picking up a piece of
crocheted poo.
Crocheted poo. It looks more knitted to me than crocheted.
Yes.
Although wait, no, they're like pearl stitching, aren't they? So that's
plain and pearl is knitting. Crochet is a different thing altogether.
I don't know.
Want to go across the semantics of all of this?
I don't know. I learned how to crochet and knit when I was in primary school.
Did you? I learned how to knit.
Yeah, the Punisher.
Yes.
Yeah. Bet he can't crochet. I bet Frank Castle can crochet and knit.
Yeah.
And he can do it a lot better. He can crochet the whatchamacallit, the Punisher t-shirts. The Punisher woolly jumpers for when it gets cold.
He's cut off times.
And the itchy neck going around. But yeah, I suppose we'll start from the start. Take it away.
It's always a good way to start.
Name is Frank Castle. Frank Castle A. And yeah, there's three Punisher movies for people who aren't aware. First one stars Dolph Lundgren. I'm gonna have to get up the IMDb for the years, but it was 1989. Then the second one was quite a jump after that. It was The Punisher with Thomas Jane in 2004, and then The Punisher Warzone in 2008. Now the first one with Dolph Lundgren in it. You have to remember that would have been done at the time before like superhero movies were really a thing. Mm-hmm. So what was it? Batman came out in 89 as well, wouldn't it have been?
Yeah, might be.
So now I don't think this would have been capitalising on the popularity of Batman, because it would have taken fairly big fucking
a lead in for production and all that kind of stuff.
But it's like. Yeah, well, would lead it, and as well, like, no one quite realised how dark Tim Burton's version of Batman was going to be at the time.
Yeah, I think everyone thought it was going to be like Adam West Batman.
Yeah, because remember, there was a lot of people how things don't really change again. At the time, people were like, oh, it's scandalous that they don't have Adam West playing Batman. Adam West is the only Batman. Why are they getting Michael Keaton to play him? And it's like, you can imagine, like, it's just a ridiculous idea, but that was like the big debate at the time. And then because Adam West didn't have a cameo in it, they were like, oh, that's scandalous, you should. And it's like, what are you going to have him doing?
Just shut up, going, giving him a pat on the head or something.
Yeah. So like the Punisher Marvel films that I can remember that would have been out say before then or around that time, there was a Captain America movie, or there might have been two Captain America movies.
At that stage? I don't
know they were like, they're probably straight to video. They weren't very good anyway. Although they were okay in their cheesiness as well at the same point. There was like the Spider-Man stuff from the late 70s or the early 80s, which was like a law unto itself. And I think there might have been, or maybe it was later on, there was a Nick Fury movie with my God, I can't remember his name. He was in Baywatch. Mitch in Baywatch. David Hasselhoff played, and that was actually alright as well, but they weren't serious movies. You had the Incredible Hulk movies as well. So this Punisher, I think
in the 1980s?
Yeah.
Who was
the Incredible Hulk?
Yeah.
Oh, fucking what's his name? Lou Ferrigno.
During movies of that?
They did one. There was like the trial of the Incredible Hulk, where they had, I think it was in the trial, or maybe it was the death of the Incredible Hulk, where there was like Thor was in it. And it was probably the most comic accurate Thor, where they had like, in the comics, I don't know what the comics are like now, but in the comics, like, Thor possesses this guy called, I can't remember his name, but this guy that's like a nurse, and possesses him to become Thor, and so like when he lifts the hammer he turns into Thor and all this kind of shit, and that's kind of the version of Thor that I can remember in it. And Daredevil is in it as well. He has to be in the trial of the Incredible Hulk, but he's Daredevil in black with it.
I keep saying with it.
Can you get with it?
Get with it. Yeah.
But there were iterations, like there were attempts, but they were mostly for kids. So I think the Punisher movie might have been one of the first that was definitely
Not for kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then again, it was the 80s, so we were looking at a lot of violent movies as
You would have
well.
been watching it anyway as a kid.
Even though it wouldn't have been kind of
aimed strictly at kids, I just assumed that kids would watch it. Anyway.
Yeah, it probably would have been where it's like, oh yeah, the kids that love Dolph Lundgren throw ninja stars into kind of like ninjas' heads and stuff.
But actually, we were only listening to was it a Tell 'em Steve Dave podcast, and they were talking about like, you know, I think showing kids like Jaws and Terminator.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh my god, you shouldn't be showing kids. And it's like, we would have seen Jaws at 3 and Terminator when we were like 5 or 6 or something like that.
Whenever it came out, I think it came out 84, did it? So
so about 5 or thereabouts, and it was just like totally natural. Like, I mean, it would have been like, yeah, let's go and see this film about a killer robot.
Yeah, well, they weren't saying that, but it was just Walt Flanagan on it was asking, saying to Q kind of like their parents are, because like he was saying kids are different
parents
now.
are gone, but that is the thing. Like, I mean, even they're even giving out about Peppa Pig, like, you know, because they call Daddy Pig fat. And it's kind of like, oh no, like fucking watch some like fucking Stand By Me or something like that.
And then Stand By Me was a weird film as well, insofar as I seem to remember that a lot when it came out. A lot, like I went to a mixed school, but all the girls.
When you say mixed school, it means like girls and boys.
Girls and boys. In Ireland, a lot of time you have schools because of the
segregated by sex. So you have girls and boys school.
Yeah, because of the Catholic Church. It's still like that. There's a lot more mixed schools, but it would have been very progressive in the 70s and the 80s to have a mixed school. But all the girls were like mad about Stand By Me for some reason. It was like a big girl movie, nearly the same as what's that fucking
Dirty
thing
Dancing.
with Corey Haim in it, or not Corey Haim, fucking Kevin Malone from My Girl.
Kevin Malone.
Macaulay Culkin.
Yes.
My Girl.
Yes.
Like that was a big. I've never seen that.
That would have been 12 or 13 when that came out. I remember going to see that in the cinema when I was probably heading towards secondary or something like that. Yeah. But yeah, everyone was like, "Oh, it's so sad. Oh no, he gets stung by a bee
and dies."
Yes.
Spoiler.
Yeah. Anna Paquin. That was her first.
Oh, was that Anna Paquin?
I'm nearly sure it was. Yeah. So, Suki.
Yeah.
Suki. Anyway, sorry.
Yes, but The Punisher, the Dolph guy, but just to give the context for the time with it, and it's, for me, I was I haven't seen this in fucking years when we went back watching it, and I was expecting it to be utter crap, and all that I could remember was that there was these, like, scenes where like the Punisher would be doing a monologue and they'd have like a camera going through the sewers because like the Punisher lives in the sewers like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle in this, and with him just going, oh, but it wasn't as corny as I remembered it.
I don't remember.
I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I don't remember much watching it the first time around. I'm sure you would have shown it to me at some stage.
No, I don't think I ever did.
Really?
It was really hard to get. Like, it was near impossible to get.
But like I didn't remember it at all, so this is kind of like my first experience, I suppose, watching it, and like I was actually quite impressed. It's like really, there's some really stylistic shots and some really sort of nice ideas in it, and there's like tracking shots in it that are just fucking people should be talking about that.
Wasn't there a couple of tracking shots in it that were nearly up there with like fucking Goodfellas?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That there was a particularly lot with it. I think it went into a kitchen, or was it it was going into the lair of like the bad guy's lair. But the guy that directed it, he's Mark Goldblatt, and he was the editor on Terminator 2, X-Men, True Lies, fucking a bunch of really big movies.
Oh wow, yeah. So there's a lot.
So he's done an awful lot. Like I think he's according to IMDb, he's only directed 3 films, but another great one, which you've seen this, but you won't remember, Dead Heat. Anyone who hasn't seen Dead Heat, go look it up. It's Treat Williams is in it. It's very, very silly. Vincent Price is in it as well, but I don't know, there's something just really, really likeable about it. It's really corny. It's kind of done nearly in the style of that Gumshoe Detective thing, but it's like the main character is dead, he gets killed, but there's this like fucking stuff that can bring you back from the dead. But like Hollywood people have been using it. It's very good. It's a good funny horror movie. But yeah, that's the guy who directed it. So
I've just seen the main character's name is Roger Mortis.
Yeah, it's very funny. You'd like it. I think you would like it. But like he's good caliber, like, you know. So it's not directed like, say, a fucking Metro Goldblum. Fucking no, or
Metro Goldwyn Mayer?
No, you know, the Canon movies, or no, Golden Globus and all that. You know, with missing in action, it's not, or thrown together like fucking.
No, it's not even thrown together like films being made today. Like this is actually, it was thoughtfully kind of filmed and stuff. It like is.
It's
and like there was one scene in particular I remember actually kind of going, Jesus Christ, the choreography and that, because it's tracking through like I think a nightclub and everyone is just sort of, just as the camera passes, everyone is just involved in something. It was like there's a, you know, sort of, I don't know, a waitress is like, you know, handing a drink or somebody's turning around doing a dance, and it's all, the actors are totally choreographed to actually hit their marks just as the camera tracks past. And
it's one take.
I could imagine the rehearsal doing that. I'd say they're all driven to demented.
Now, this is probably one of the only podcasts you'll ever listen to where people are going to fucking kind of rate this movie highly and look at it for its artistic integrity. Because I think a lot of people, they look at all these movies from the 80s and they kind of, or the 70s, that'd be considered B movies or whatever, and kind of just fucking brush them away, going, oh, look, there's not, you know, there's nothing to it. But like, movies don't have to be, they're a visual fucking medium, so it's like about the visuals.
Yeah, sometimes the story doesn't have to make sense if it's entertaining and if it's pleasing to the eye. Yeah. And oftentimes if the soundtrack is also pleasing to the ear.
Yeah, well, we basically looked at 3 fucking movies that have the same story.
Yeah, it's The Punisher.
Yeah, he's just killing people. It's the same as fucking cowboy movies have been since whenever. It's, you know, I think sometimes I listen to a couple of, say, people criticise certain movies, and even with Marvel movies, say, oh, they're all the same thing, and it's like...
But sure, isn't it? There's like the 7 archetypes, isn't it, of stories, and that's it.
But that's, people forget that movies are there to kind of serve that purpose, where it's like, look, we're storytelling with the thing. Like, there's some movies that are elevated and that they go beyond. So you might get like a handful of those movies a year. But like other movies, they don't need to be anything other than what they are, because they're just fucking fables. And like, fables aren't complicated and they don't need to be complicated. You know, like, I can imagine that the critics of this film would probably be like, oh, it's too violent, there's nothing but violence, the acting is terrible, and there's no kind of story to it. And it's like, there is a story to it. Now, I guarantee the Punisher probably betrays some of what he would be in the comic, but this is a different Punisher. It doesn't matter, like, by helping the mobster go off and save the girl. But I think Dolph Lundgren is brilliant as Frank Castle in it. Like, I think you were fucking either on your phone or gone to at the start when they had the first tracking shot in through the sewers with him. They did the same shot at the end where he's like fucking meditating naked, covered in dirt.
Yeah, that was kind of like, it was going really well, and then the very last scene was like naked arse. And I was like, do you have to have that? I suppose you do. It's Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, but I think it was just closing off because there was a lot of that was like a thing in the 80s nearly, where it's like close the film with nearly the same shot that you opened the film with. But it did have him. He was there, and he was like, I'll try and do my best impersonation, where he's like, my God, why I must punish you. But he sounds insane, and that's, the Punisher is meant to be a fucking psychopath. Essentially, like, he's
driven mad by loss, like.
Well, he was like, with the comics, this is the thing. He was like it before it, and he loved Vietnam. He wanted to stay in Vietnam because he just like killing. Where he's just good, and like, I think they hit the nail on the head with a lot of things. Like, he's a tactical fucking, you know, he's just good at what he does. It's about gunning people down. It's not about like there's bits of them seeing him slightly struggling, and as well, Dolph Lundgren is very imposing. But as well, this early on in his career, he was kind of slimmed down.
Yeah, he wasn't big muscle bound kind
of.
He was more kind of he was like an otter, very sleek.
Yeah, but he just, for anyone that are fans of it, like, I can't remember the artists in the 80s. Like, I mean, the Punisher was around since the 70s and Spider-Man and bits, and I think he only really got his first standalone comic in the 80s, if I remember correctly, because I remember getting him, and then there was like, it was Punisher in Vietnam. I think it might have been War Journals or something like that. I think they were the first collected Punishers that I got in the 80s, because when I was a kid, I loved stuff about the Vietnam War. I don't know why. It was just everywhere at the time, wasn't it? Like, Platoon was a big movie. But it was just, I suppose,
that was the thing. I mean, like, say, a generation before that would have been cowboy films, because that would have been what, like, the zeitgeist was. And then for us, it was, I suppose there was, you know, sort of World War II films. Yeah, there is always, but it's like, obviously, when we were growing up, it was all Vietnam, because the vets were coming home, making sense of what happened over there. And then you had just a couple of filmmakers then, they're like, fucking making a film about this shit.
And obviously, as a child, you don't really get that. You don't, like, you know, understand the complexities of war. And,
you're just like, oh, it's cool, they're blowing things up.
Just like I used to get, there was a magazine called The Nam. I used to collect that, and it was it, I'm fairly sure it was Nam. But they'd have stuff like diagrams of the tunnels that the Viet Cong were using and like the weapons, but they'd have like a fold out of M16s, like it was like Playboy but with guns in it. I fucking loved it. Like I don't. There was
it's just something I think for. I don't want to be sexist about it, but it is very much a boy kind of a thing. Because like you still have all the people that are into like the World War II, like, you know, fucking tanks and airplanes and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like, I can remember going to, say, some of the World War II museums when I used to visit France quite a lot. I was over and back on the ferries, doing children's entertainment, because every time I say I worked on the boats, people go, oh my God, as a prostitute? And I'm like, no, as a clown.
That's the only people from like the 50s that say, oh, I work on the boats. Like other people go, oh, right, you're a fisherman.
Exactly. That's it, exactly, yeah. But there's a load of war museums around like Cherbourg and all the rest. And like they're interesting, but like it was all like, oh, let's go and look at this tank, and there's another tank, and this is a different type of like a machine gun. Yeah, and I was just like, oh God, it's just boring as.
But I'm the same. World War II. I'm just like, oh. Well, I think the weird thing with the movies as well in the 80s that were covering like Vietnam, and even The Punisher. Like, The Punisher kind of deals with PTSD. It definitely, there's a lot of psychological stuff going on there with him, where it's like, right, he's traumatized by the death of his child, but he's just fixated on killing everyone. Well, anyone that he thinks is, he's after getting a twisted morality with it. Yeah. Which is a similar thing with Batman, to a certain extent, but not to the extremes, where Batman is kind of a fascist, whereas Frank Castle is just a serial killer, basically.
Yeah, he's kind of his own thing, like,
Yeah, where he's like, oh, well, look, I kind of enjoy killing people, and I'm going to get revenge on all these people that destroyed the life that I could have had and killed my family. And I think Dolph Lundgren captures it. There's a bit of the 80s, like, one-liners in it as well, and there's, like, it's... The main story covers, like, the Yakuza with the gangster mafia. They're, like, that's a big... The mafia is... a constant in The Punisher, apart from when he got recruited by angels to hunt demons. Stuff.
Bit of a sidestep there, alright, huh?
Which they try to forget in the I think they might have done something similar like that again a while ago. But I really like this. Louis Gossett Jr. is in it as well, as he's old police detective partner. That's where this is different, and Thomas Jane film is different from the comic, where they have him as a cop. Now, there might be iterations in the comic, I'm not 100% sure he's a cop in it, but normally it's just he's with his family having a picnic. He's like a marine, kind of like a drill instructor or something like that, or some kind of trainer, and it's just a random thing they come across, like they accidentally see.
They see a fucking thing going down that they shouldn't have seen, and they want to... Mobsters then just want to erase all witnesses, and it's just they're caught in the crossfire.
Whereas in this and Thomas Jane's version, they're like cops.
Yeah, they've gone undercover and stuff like that. Yeah,
but like I keep saying, I really like this movie. You liked it as well.
I did. I very much enjoyed it. Yeah.
Well, even the intro. I remember you saying with the intro that you were like, "Oh, I don't like this from like as in the title screen, like the credits."
They had this kind of weird it was not quite retro, but it was like the way James Bond always has like their arty kind of introductions, where it's all like graphics and stuff like that. It was very stark graphics and just kind of interesting. I was like, oh Jesus, if we're making a bit of an effort with the titles, like, you know, it's like wait and we see what they do with the rest of the film, and it didn't disappoint. I was very surprised.
Yeah, I was so pleasantly surprised. Like, I mean, anyone that can see it, it comes up on Amazon Prime occasionally. I don't know if there's like DVDs of it out there. There should be. I think it deserves a Blu-ray remaster. But it's definitely worth watching. I think like, without fucking getting into it, it's definitely between this one and Punisher Warzone as being the better Punisher movie. For me, anyway.
Wait, no, Warzone was the one with...
Ray Stevenson in it.
Oh, right, okay.
Which is like... we'll talk about that in a bit. But...
And what's his name? McNulty out of the war?
Yeah.
Jigsaw.
Fuck, I can't remember his name. Dominic West. But... Yeah, unfortunately, it didn't get a sequel. That I think apparently, just looking at IMDb, it was saying that Dolph Lundgren wasn't happy with like the movie, so he didn't want to reprise the role. So I think that kind of put it on the down through,
which is a pity, because I mean, if you look at it purely from sort of an 80s kind of a standpoint, he was your typical cool 80s hero, anti-hero, rather than hero. It was kind of it was still away from the whole sort of the big roided up sort of like, you know, Ernie sort of massive fucking man. He was like an everyman kind of a thing still at that stage there. He was believable, if you know what I mean. And it was this, I don't know, it just had this kind of like retro 80s feel to it, which but it was still, it felt like ahead of its time for the 80s as well, which is, it's a weird kind of a thing to say, but like you can clearly see it's 80s, like the leather clad sort of hero.
I think it probably didn't do well at the time because there weren't really superhero movies around, and the ones that were around were kind of terrible. They're
like your typical Superman with like
Christopher Reeve.
Thank you, yes. Yeah. I was like Clark Kent, and I'm like, no, that's the character.
So I think this is so different. This is more in the vein of Blade, I think, than any of the rest of them. And I don't think people were ready for like the dark superhero thing.
It's an anti-hero rather than a superhero as such.
Now, if this movie probably came out straight to video under a different name, probably would have done really well. I think it did alright at the time. Like it's quite obviously didn't do as well as they wanted it to do. Because like quite obviously they didn't go on with it, and as well Dolph Lundgren never has like the Punisher fucking logo on him at the time, so kind of part of me thinks, you know, maybe when they were making this they kind of thought, well fuck, I think maybe they wanted to get away from that imagery, the comic book imagery of it, because it doesn't feel like a comic book movie.
No, it doesn't
at all. I don't know, it's just really, really good. Like, I don't think there's nothing else that we can say about it other than, like, go and have a look. Go and have a look at it. It's, if you're a fan, even if you're not a fan of the Punisher thing, and I think this is the thing with the Punisher movie. The Punisher movies are basically revenge movies. They're like The Crow in a certain... They are Death Wish, yeah. And sure, that's where, like, the Punisher came from. In the 70s, there was that whole popularity of, like, movies like Death Wish and... these revenge movies, because like crime was rife around the place and the police seemed to be fucking not doing very much about it. Yeah. Same stuff is happening over in Ireland at the moment. I think people don't really, it's probably going on everywhere. But yeah, so that kind of gave birth to the Punisher. And you look at movies like Super, which was Rainn Wilson's kind of take on fun, or Kick-Ass as well, where it's like, what if people tried to be superheroes? Just to be a vigilante and it going wrong. Whereas with the Punisher, I think out of a lot of them is possibly one of the more realistic, where it's like, it's a guy with a bunch of guns. He doesn't have superpowers. He's just like, his fucking superpower is anger. He's just driven by hatred. But then, like, big jump, and they, like, comic book movies were starting to become, I suppose,
X-Men, all of that.
X-Men, yeah. I suppose Batman would have been out around that time, wasn't it? Like The Dark Knight for 2004.
No, I think it was a lot later
or
than
maybe a lot later. But like this was the start of a lot of the stuff where it was like people getting ready to start taking superhero comics more serious and real. I think more so Hollywood seeing, look, we can make money from this, people are into it. Like, so then in 2004 you had Thomas Jane's The Punisher. Where he's like Laura was saying, he's an undercover FBI agent, and it's like a mobster's son, John Travolta's son, dies because he's a bust that he's involved with, so he kills like his entire family, as in like every cousin and relative. I seem to remember at the time really liking it, but when we're looking at it now this time around, it was a bit mid. It
was kind of a bit, I suppose a bit by the numbers, and like it was... I don't know, you should have felt more, I suppose, and all the family were getting killed, but you're just kind of looking at it going, oh well, Dad's dead, oh well, cousin Nora's dead, oh well, little Jimmy.
And it's not really violent enough.
No, it's just,
he doesn't feel like the Punisher. The thing is, Thomas Jane is a great actor. He looks like the Punisher, but he's too nice.
He is, yeah, he does. He just has a nice guy kind of aura about him,
and even in this, he's like too nice to the people around him, which I get they're probably trying to inject a bit of humanity into him, but this is a whole thing that's with the point. It's not like with Batman. In Batman, they try and inject humanity into him by like having Robin and now the Bat family and the, you know, or Alfred even.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work with the Punisher. That's the appeal of the Punisher is that he's
nothing left to lose. He doesn't care about anyone. His family is gone and that's it. He's just going to keep going until.
And it's not like you don't want him to be kind of like, oh, there's someone in trouble. I think the way it looked to me, even with like there was a whole thing with him kind of drawing guns, dueling with people, where he probably Thomas Jane might have seen this himself as like a cowboy movie, or the director probably saw. You know, they were probably like, oh, we'll have him as a modern day like man with no name, going around like a Clint Eastwood character, which it doesn't. I don't know. I didn't looking at it. It was a bit long, and then the action sequences in it, they're okay, but they're not particularly great. John Travolta is
hilarious.
Yeah, unintentionally hilarious in it.
He is John Travolta.
Yeah, it's...
well, I suppose there's one or two of the deaths are fairly violent. I mean, like, okay, we're going to do a few spoilers, I'm assuming, but John Travolta's ultimate death is actually kind of hilarious.
Yeah, but then as well, where the cars are left in the skull of the Punisher.
Yeah, it's very cheesy, isn't it?
And the way that they worked it in, where it's like, oh, he wears a skull, the Punisher skull thing, because his kid gave him a t-shirt before he died. And it's just like, what?
Yeah, corny.
Yeah, it's... I don't know... I remember when it came out at the time I really liked it, but I think it was because there was no superhero stuff coming out.
Yeah, it's probably a better backstory for the son giving him the t-shirt rather than a grown man going, do you know what, I'm going to get a t-shirt with a skull on it.
The story with it was that he used to wear it in like Nam. And sure, like the whole thing, I've seen people online talking about saying if a cop pulls you over and he's got the Punisher...
Yeah, be very scared.
Yeah, shut the fuck up and do what you're told.
This guy fancies himself a proper vigilante.
But you know, it's just have to become associated with that anti-crime sentiment, which I don't know if it's good or bad. Like, this is a whole debate that comes up with the Punisher that was always kind of comes up about like vigilante superheroes the whole time with Spider-Man, Daredevil, Batman. It's like
I see with the rest of them, I think it's still they're still trying to do the right thing and they're still trying to protect the little people, the common person and all the rest. Whereas I think the Punisher is always like straight over into almost like being a far right fascist kind of a thing in sort of the imagery. Those kind of people take him on board as like, oh, here he's our saviour kind of a thing, like, you know, we'll just
I think there's a whole thing with the debate with vigilantism, say, and like with the Punisher, it's like, say, with the Punisher in particular, he's killing people, he's a murderer, so he's a criminal himself, he's a fucking mass murderer, which is, so he's as bad as the people he's killing, but on the same point, is he, if he's killing these bad people that have done things that, like, the law system is and the whole thing with the Punisher and that used to come up in the 70s movies, and what I think is, it's like a fucking nearly unofficial Punisher movie is Law Abiding Citizen with Gerard Butler. Yeah. I think that's a fucking great movie.
It is, yeah, actually, come to think of it, yeah.
And very underrated movie.
Would fit in the category, really, I suppose,
but where it's like, if these people that they're after corrupting everything, that they're after corrupting the law system around them, that they seem to be untouchable. Then you do need people like this to come along.
That'll work outside the system, yeah, exactly. And they're just going, fuck it, I'm killing them, yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's no need for
to actually work. Yeah.
And as well, it's like, does rehabilitation work? Maybe with some people, some of these people that he kills or not. But then again, the Punisher doesn't like talk about every person that he shoots at life, you know. But it doesn't really get into any of these movies, like but that's the bigger kind of debate that goes on around. Now with this Punisher, it's based on Garrett Ennis's first run. I think it was his first run, Welcome Back Frank, in the Punisher, where remember I was saying to you about like the whole Angels fucking thing, where it's Garrett Ennis came in after that run and he was like, no one likes this, let's just forget about it, let's
roll it back to the start.
I was reading like his notes that he gave to Marvel about kind of like he's nearly like he's fucking sales kind of thing for kind of why he should do the Punisher, and it was like, let's get it out of the way, it will mention it very quickly at the start and just say, all right, this is it, he's back to being a normal human. He didn't want to do it. And part of the thing in that, the story that came before, was that the angel showed him his family in heaven, thinking that it'd torment him, and him to kind of go, oh, I'll do your work if I can get into heaven. But he was like happy to see that his family were in heaven, and he was happy to never see him again.
Just long as they were okay.
Stay on earth and kill, because he's happiest when he's killing people. So it's like Dexter nearly to a degree. With it. But in this version of the Punisher, it didn't take the core elements of that run, which is really funny and horrifically violent, and it took stuff like Frank living in the apartment block and the three people like Dave, Spacker Dave, he is, and with the Pearsons and your man and your woman Joan.
Did you know, actually, I know they have to do all this whole thing, but that really irritated me more than that. And it's like, this girl, she's just like, she knows he's like on the sort of, you know, he's a troubled man, and he's just after losing his wife, and she's like, oh, but I quite like him, I fancy him, and if he could fancy me back. And it's like, oh God, the whole rhyme and reason behind the Punisher is he's mourning the loss of his wife and kid, and then your one is just like batting her eyelids at him. It's like, fuck off.
And like that doesn't happen like that in the comic. In the comic, that character is totally different. She's like really meek. Yeah. She's got like mad social anxiety. She's like, I just got to get out. This city is so violent. I'm scared I'm going to get killed. I can't go outside. And he's like, get out of the city. And she's like, how can I? And he's like, just like me. He said, I don't know how. I just do it.
Yeah, just go.
Just do things. Do it, and so like there's a bit in the comic, he leaves the money the exact same way, where it's the 3 plates of money for him, but it's mainly for her to get out.
Go and get out. Maybe to buy a new dress as well, because that I don't know, for some reason that really annoyed me with this film as well. She kept wearing the same fucking dress, and I was like, I know you're poor, but surely you change or you wash once in a while. Jesus Christ.
But even that whole thing where they seem to try and want to portray the Punisher as this good guy hero helping out like people that need it, like she was getting attacked by her ex, and he went and like bet the shit out, you know, when he was so it's like, oh yeah, he'll get involved. Like the Punisher, he wouldn't just beat the guy up anyway, for one. If he decided to get involved, he'd just shoot him in the face. That's what I really liked about in the Punisher Warzone. There was a bit in it where he's like holding the kid and they're like, oh, we're going to bring this fella in, we're going to arrest him. He just fucking shoots him straight in the head, and he doesn't blink, or even, it's just like second nature, where he's just like, oh, this ain't happening. But yeah, with this, and at the time a load of people were like, oh my god, Thomas Jane, this is going to be a load of films for the Punisher, and then it didn't happen. They went off and they did that short film Dirty Laundry, where he was like unofficially the Punisher, and I think to try and nearly sell it like the way that Ryan Reynolds did Deadpool. But he didn't. Like, you never know, the way Marvel has gone at the moment, he could come back as the... Oh, no, he won't. John Bernthal is going to be the Punisher. I was just going to say,
we have the TV series, and if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be him, I think,
and like the TV series, I think, we didn't include that because I'm not going back watching fucking 36.
A million episodes. And in fairness, it was very good. I did enjoy it.
It's brilliant. It's like John Bernthal, I think, he's a great Punisher, but he's not the comic Punisher. He's too small, for one. I don't like. I hate when people are saying, I don't look like him.
He doesn't have black hair.
But I don't think he's a very different character. He's a different take on the Punisher, because it's more about war. It's a different take on all the characters, and they did a great job with reinventing them, doing their version of the Punisher. But he's not the comic Punisher, which is probably because I don't think you get a TV series out of comic Punisher, because you very hard to sympathise with.
Yes.
So like, I mean, how they managed to pull it off with Dexter, I don't know. I think it was just that thing where it's like Michael C. Hall is kind of likeable.
He's very likeable, that's it, because even it doesn't matter like how much of a cold
killer
how much of a cold killer he was, you kind of go, but I bet you he's like nice underneath. He cares about his sister.
Whereas with the Punisher, with him just kind of like treating everyone around him like shit, and sitting on his own, just going, or just being constantly angry, and then going off and murdering away. I'd watch it.
Sure,
but I don't know if other people would. Yes. But yeah, out of all the movies, I think this is probably the weakest one. I don't think I'd go back watching it again, even though I loved it at the time when it came out. I'm fairly sure we have it on DVD in there from...
Did you have a T-shirt at the time as well with the Punisher skull?
I never really wore that because there's too much of a thing attached with people wearing that, and I was like, it's like people wearing the Sons of Anarchy stuff, you know. So a lot of,
then.
I think at the end, and Warzone, Punisher Warzone, it was directed by Lexi Alexander, 2008, and this is it kind of just continues on. This is the thing I think that's good about the Punisher. You can do nearly like a Bond style thing, where you don't have to have a continuity.
Exactly.
And you could just drop them in anywhere and say like, you don't have to give a timeline.
Yeah, there you go.
Other than this happened years ago, and at least in this film, Micro is in it. There's a few other characters that are like helping him along. Soap is in it, which people familiar with the comics will know as well that he's like the unluckiest cop in the world that they put like in charge of the Punisher task force, because they're like, he's never going to get him, because in the comics the cops love the Punisher, obviously it's not like in job. Batman where they're like, no, we hate him, they're like, oh, this is great, he's fucking killing all the fucking scum that we don't have to deal with.
So, and interestingly enough, I suppose, since you're talking about Dexter, you've got Julie Benz is in this as well.
Julie Benz is in this, and
but again, insufferable. No, it's just an
like,
insufferable character, and she said, my daughter, I know my husband.
I don't know. There was a thing when Julie Benz came out with Dexter. I think she got typecast in that kind of Dexter kind of role thing. And like, she was great. Was it Rita? Was the character's name in Dexter? I think she was great in that, because I don't know. There was just something realistic about her, something grounded about her, where you put that her in that world where it's like, she does not deserve to be with this fucking guy who's a fucking serial killer, but he's trying to look after her and try to look after the kid and stuff, but it's going to end terribly with it. But like in this one, she just seems to be wasted. But
it's just, I found those the cringiest scenes as well. Ray Stevenson, where it's kind of like, sort of her kids started playing with his kids' old toys, and he was looking, and it was kind of like, oh god, don't make this about like, oh, he's seeing his kid and in her kid, and it's just like, it just seemed creepy.
See, I think this is where people struggle with like doing the point where you have to have this thing for people to kind of see him as a human.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I just want to protect the kids.
Yeah. So they try and do it with it where it's...
But I don't know, that made me feel very queasy.
Yeah.
I don't know, it was just...
Like with John Berntal's character, it's like more about PTSD and the horrors of war and him getting like fucked over by so you can't... There is that, and he's more of a normal fucking person in the situation. Whereas with the Punisher in general, like I keep saying, he's not a normal person. No. Like, he never was. He just had the guise of normality for a while. But in this, as we're saying, Ray Stevenson plays the Punisher in this. And now a lot of him, he was my favourite Punisher.
Really?
Yeah, he looks like him. He acts like the Punisher. He's got it down to a T. And like, unfortunately, Ray Stevenson died there. I think it was last year. Was all. Oh. And he's a fucking brilliant actor. I really always liked Ray Stevenson and things. I don't think he got it into enough.
High profile stuff.
Yeah. But he made some great cult movies.
Can we talk a bit about Dominic West?
Oh yeah, Dominic West.
All the fucking scenery and being an absolute psychopath.
Yeah, and Dominic West plays Jigsaw, yeah. Proper fucking
not
villain.
Jigsaw, not do you want to play a game.
Yeah.
But basically he's there's a horrendous scene at the start where basically he falls into like a glass recycling machine and he just gets cut to fucking ribbons. And the surgery stitches them back together, but it's like the worst makeup effect ever. But he's just basically, himself and the brother are just basically pissing around the whole thing, just like chewing scenery and being all like, me, villain.
It's over the top. You can see they're fucking loving it. It reminds me a little bit of Dick Tracy.
Yeah, it is actually.
Too, but it is very, very over the top, and even nearly Batman fucking
Villain-esque.
60s version of things. But in a weird way, it kind of works with him. Like, it's because the film is just over. Like, one of the first scenes is he kills someone with the leg of a chair that he just drives through. There's another scene where he just punches someone in their head and their head explodes.
Clean through their head, yeah.
This is like, this is a perfect, like what we were saying at the start, where sometimes movies don't really need a story. This is just the Punisher
spectacle,
brutally fucking killing people. It's hilarious. It's over the top comic violence, and it just works really, really well. Like, I don't think Lexi Alexander hasn't really done many movies, I think, since, which is a shame.
Green Street.
Yeah, she did Green Street. Yeah. But she's done like plenty, obviously, like, you know, but it's, I think...
Oh wow, I didn't realise gone over to like Arrow, Supergirl, Take and all of that.
Sure, there was a lot of like the cop that was in and the FBI agent that was in Punisher Warzone, he was in Arrow. And
bit of a crossover.
It's so, but it's it would have been great to I like the whole thing. I think where is it? It says on her she was like a close combat instructor for the Marine Corps and like a world kickboxing champion. So she's like
coming at it from a position of knowledge. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
But I would love to see more movies like Punisher Warzone. Now I get it come out and people go, this is fucking hot garbage. Like I get like people would initially look at this and kind of go, but it is shot really, really, really well. There's some lovely fucking lighting kind of done to it. I think as corny as it is but I think that's just nearly an action movie trope where it's just it nearly feels like I was saying where it's like, look, how can we get him to feel like a human and get people to relate to him? Let's just throw this in. But it really is kind of like, Mr. the Punisher, you're
my hero.
Yeah, can you be my dad?
Yes.
Because like even though they're like they know he killed her father, they're still like,
oh, he's such a lovely guy. Underneath it all.
And like, oh, that man that you killed, he would, because this is where they're trying to have this internal fucking struggle with the Punisher in this. Is that he accidentally kills an undercover FBI agent. So he's like, oh God, I can't believe I killed a cop. I don't ever want to do it. Now there is elements of Garrett Ennis's run in this as well. Definitely the over-the-top violence in it. And just the Punisher's total and utter lack of regard for anyone. Yeah.
He's like, poof, poof, poof,
dead. And Wayne Knight is in it as Micro. And he's very good.
They don't pull any punches. Like, he's got a mother who's basically suffering with, like, you know, advanced Alzheimer's dementia, and she just gets her head blown off by, like, you know, it's fucking horrendous. Like, Jesus Christ, you're assuming, okay, right, there might be something terrible done to the poor mother, but it's like her actual half a head just gets blown away, and you're just like, ugh.
Well, there's that stupid. Do you know? Actually, it reminds me a lot of fucking Batman and Robin. There's bits in it. But like super ultra violent Batman and Robin. There's like an Irish black guy with dreadlocks. At the start we were like,
is he Irish or Jamaican or what? Where's the accent?
And they say his name was O'Hara or something like that, and they were like, oh, he's an Irish parkour guy.
Parkour.
That constantly takes fucking crack, was it, or something?
Yeah, but they're basically just bouncing around the place like fucking gummy bears.
There's a bit where they're just like, for no reason, just on the top of a roof, and they're going across, and one guy does the jump like that, and then the other guy's going, and like a fucking rocket comes in and explodes him.
Yeah, when he's doing his little parkour hop between buildings, and he's doing parkour,
and they're like, what the fuck? But even the whole thing where he catches him and he just drops him off the fucking building. And then he shoots him in his legs off, doesn't he? And drops him off the fucking building. And then like fucking... Oh, he throws him down onto the spiked fence and the spike goes through his fucking neck. Yeah. And then the Punisher just jumps and lands on his head.
Yeah, just to like kick his head off as well. Yeah, it's just like, you're kind of like, over the top,
It's brilliant. Yeah. It is brilliant. I think it's probably what, and like you were saying, the whole thing, you throw in Dominic West ham it up with the guy that was playing his brother, who's...
And he's got the like most
Looney Bin Jim.
New York accent. Yeah. He's like all over the place.
But even at this, before he turns into the villain, when he's like, oh, it's a fucking Jimmy or something like that, where he's like meant to be, or Billy, he's meant to be like fucking this guy that's obsessed with his looks, and he's like looking in the mirror, but it's just, he's like just totally hammered, and he would have came just off the wire onto this.
Yeah, whereas like very serious and worthy and all the rest,
and it's just, it's terrible, but it's good. It's so bad, it's good.
He's like, oh jeez, I sound like Porky Pig there. It's like he's playing a stage version of like somebody, a gangster or something like that. It's just the accent I can't get over. It's like, oh, hey, jeez, why you going to do that? And there's some cops down.
But the way that they're laughing and giggling going around, and it's just very silly. And like, but it's a fun ride. It's you know what's going to happen.
That's it. Sometimes, when you go to the amusement park, you want to go to like the ghost train. Sometimes you want to go on the roller coaster, and sometimes you just like the one that goes round and round and scares the shit off you, and it's hilarious, but there's no point.
And it's kind of a metal soundtrack to it as well. I remember that before it came out, what got me excited for it was that Rob Zombie did the the song for like Warzone. And but Slipknot Psychosocial is in it when the gangs are getting together, because basically they just get an abandoned hotel where they're like waiting for the Punisher to come in.
But even that was so like jarring as well, because it's kind of like you're just moseying along and it's like normal soundtrack, and then it's like Slipknot comes in and it's like, yeah, let's tune up, and then it just fades out before the vocal comes in, and then it goes quiet again. You're like, oh, we just had a little bit of a fun interlude there with the music video.
But it's just following the was it the Yakuza, an Irish gang, and it's like a gang like the Crips or whatever, like, you know, going in there as well. And it's just, and then the Russian mafia as well come along into it.
Yeah. But
yeah, it's good. So what would be your favourite out of the three?
I enjoyed the first one the most, really. I think, again, probably because he, as you said afterwards, like fucking worked on the Terminator as well. It had that kind of a feel, it had that 80s feel of like, I don't know, sort of, it wasn't an A-list film, if you know what I mean. It wasn't a big sort of, a kind of a big summer release or anything like that. I just had this feel of sort of like a little bit gritty, a little bit sort of dangerous, a little bit sort of, man on the edge kind of thing. It did have that,
it kind of felt like it captured New York. That seedy.
At that time,
but not like Death Wish New York, but still that kind of like 80s rough New York.
Very scared to ride the subway kind of a thing, but no, I quite liked it because it was just, he sort of still the cool 80s hero with the leather jacket kind of a thing, that didn't speak much and just kind of brooded around the place a bit.
It was very good. Like, I do think, see, this is the problem with some films like that, they won't get reevaluated, really, because there's no one there championing for him. It's not like all of a sudden there's going to be some art house cinema somewhere kind of like just fucking showing.
Let's show the Punisher.
Yeah.
That's it.
But yeah, I think it's between that and Warzone for me as the favourite. Probably, I'd probably look at Warzone again quicker because it's so over the top.
Yeah, it's more of an entertainment film rather than a thought-provoking film.
Yeah, and something you could throw on in the background and kind of... Now, that's not like to say that it's a
throwaway. No, it's more of a
like
sort of like a beers and pizza.
As if you're rewatching it a few times and then wait for the really violent scenes to come on and you cheer along with it.
Yay! Their head just exploded. That old lady just died.
But like Dolph Lundgren's Punisher, I do think it's probably better than a lot of people fucking give it credit for. Like way better than a lot of people give it credit for.
Yeah.
And it's like a shame that again, like it could have been a different direction for, if there was with the same people involved on a sequel, because like for a lot of people they always go, sometimes the sequels are worse, but there was a thing in the 80s with nearly straight to video things where the sequels were better because they were given a bit more money. And they were given a bit more freedom, where it was like fucking do whatever you know what you're doing, do whatever you want. So like fucking Nightmare on Elm Street 3 I think is one of the best. There was a lot of the Friday the 13th sequels are great. They're better, well, maybe not as good as like the first one, but there's definitely, they have their qualities.
Yes, qualities.
But yeah, I suppose that's us done. I think the next Punisher movie, or the next movie that's going to have the Punisher in it, is the new Spider-Man movie. Apparently John Bernthal is going to pop up as the Punisher in it, which should be interesting to see if they'll actually give him his own
little spin-off or something,
movie spin-off, because I think the first season of the Punisher was great. When he was in Daredevil he was great, but the second one felt a little bit like The Littlest Hobo, where he was where he's like just drifting into town and helping people out. So I don't know what they could do for, I think the Punisher probably suits movies better than a TV series, because he's not a character that's extremely deep if you're going with the comic book archetype of it. So it's probably best just to do an hour and a half or 2 hours of like ultra violence, and give nearly fucking Damien Leone, who did the Terrifier movies. Yeah. If he did a Punisher movie, that'd be fucking amazing.
It'd be proper terrifying.
It'd be just him. And there's it would have been on the PlayStation 2 and the PC. There was a Punisher game that I fucking loved. I remember giving it to my nephew at the time.
Oh, he's not your nephew anymore then?
Well, yes, he was, but he was like probably way too young to be playing it. But that is one of the best depictions of the Punisher, and it's horrifically violent. There's like one of the mechanics in it is where you're getting someone to interrogate him, and at the end you're given a kind of like punish or let loose if you get the information out of him. And of course you're going to punish him. So it's stuff like fucking still drilling people in the eyes, and it's like really fucking kind of pushing them into fucking like, you know, turning cogs and stuff. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant game.
Lovely. Ultra-violence.
Yeah, and if people are interested in reading the comics, I'm currently reading some of the Garrett Ennis ones at the moment. I'm really enjoying. I fucking didn't think I'd enjoy it as much. So I think there's Marvel Unlimited. You can get them on if you don't want to actually buy the physical kind of things, or read them online somewhere. But yeah, look, that's it for this week. So if you like the show, let us know. Just let us know. Leave us a comment. Say, hey, look, good work. We listened to the end. And you can tell us if you'd like us to talk about any other kind of things, because we're going to probably continue along the lines of crappy movies. Or movies that other people think are crappy, but we think are great.
There you go.
So look, until next week. The Punisher.